Hello and welcome back to the Cover Drive podcast. We are back with another series review, this time for the test series between Pakistan and Sri Lanka. The series was a one-all draw, with Pakistan winning the first test and losing the second one quite decisively. Um, Looking at this test series, one could say that even the first test match was not completely dominated by Pakistan. They did come away with the victory, but there were definitely a few lucky breaks there, and it did come down to a lot of individual brilliance from Abdullah Shafiq and Babar Azam. So, in today's episodes, we're going to be analyzing that as well as what Pakistan can do with their test team looking into the future. I have two guests with me today, both from our cricket Twitter fraternity. The first one being Haris, who has been on this podcast before, and the second one is Parmeet, who is also very well known on the cricket Twitter circles. Welcome, guys. Thank you for being on this show, on the podcast. And what did you guys think of the टेस्ट सीरीज? क्या लग रहा है आप लोग को अभी आगे जाके टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप में कोई चांस रहता है, या is it time to start looking into the future? Haris, please go first, and then we can hear from Parmeet as well.
Yeah, hey City, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here again. I think you described it pretty well. That 1-1 was a pretty accurate result. I think if we look back, we can even say that 1-1 we stole that first test. So on another series, this could have easily been 2-0. So I think they played well in the first test. We kind of stole that test from them. We won that one, and the second one, they outplayed us. So a 1-1 at the end of the day was a pretty fair result. We definitely did not play the best cricket in this series. I think the selections, as we'll talk about later, selections, the changes, the captaincy, the batting, the bowling, the spin department, everything can be scrutinized, but we'll get into that later. So, but I think, as I said, 1-1 was a pretty fair result. I think, as far as I'm concerned, we're pretty much out of the World Test Championship. So we can definitely, in the next 4 or 5 tests we have, we can look towards the next cycle and look to bring in the younger players who we think are good enough, and they might help us win the next cycle. So I think that's all I have to say, and I'm looking forward to this for me.
नहीं, डेफिनेटली आई थिंक जहाँ तक कैप्टनसी की बात है, इधर तो खुल के बात होगी। ये ट्विटर की तरह नहीं है जहाँ पे आप कप्तानी के बारे में कुछ बोल दें और कैंसिल हो जाए। तो वो तो उस पर तो काफ़ी डीप डाइव होगा टीम सिलेक्शन पे। परमीत, आप बताओ यार, क्या लगा तुम्हें कि क्या क्या लग रहा है आगे जाके? डू वी स्टिल हैव अ चांस, या खत्म है टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप हमारे लिए?
यार अभी क्या रिक्वायरमेंट है? आप 4 मैच जीते हैं और 2 ड्रॉ करें तो आगे जाएंगे, आप 5 जीते और एक एक हार जाएं तो आगे जाएंगे, राइट? ये है ना, जितना मैंने पढ़ा था।
5 मैच ही बचे हैं, तो उसमें से मैंने मैक्सिमम आप सिर्फ एक ही हार सकते हो शायद।
6 नहीं
ऐसा
बचे?
नहीं नहीं, 3 टेस्ट इंग्लैंड के साथ है, एंड आई बिलीव 2 न्यूजीलैंड के साथ है। हारिस, इफ करेक्ट मी इफ आई एम रॉन्ग।
So basically you need to win 4.
Yeah, I think you're right, CD. I'm not 100% sure as well though.
हाँ, लेकिन regardless, so let's just assume कि ये ठीक है, सही है। 5 मैच रहते हैं, आपको 4 जीतते हैं, और अभी आप खुद हिसाब लगा लें कि I think it's too late. अब ऑलरेडी यू शुड हैव बीन इन अ सिचुएशन कि आप यहाँ तक आपको नौबत ही नहीं आती, आपको 5 में से 2 जीतने होते। यहाँ आप दूसरा जीत जाते, आप एक ऑस्ट्रेलिया के साथ किसी तरह जीत जाते, यहाँ आपका सिचुएशन बहुत आसान होता। और काफ़ी शर्म की बात है कि आई गेस आपके इतने इजी स्केड्यूल के बाद भी आप ना जा पाए। आई थिंक अगले 2 वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप का तो जो FTP आया, आई डोंट थिंक, या जो भी आया उसमें, आई डोंट थिंक के इतना वो इजी स्केड्यूल है आपका। साउथ अफ्रीका और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के शायद अवे टूर है, इंग्लैंड जहाँ आप अवे अच्छा करते हैं वहाँ तो है ही नहीं आपकी सीरीज। आई डोंट नो अंटिल गॉड नोज व्हेन। तो ये आपने भंड मार दी, और आई वुडंट इवन से दिस वाज अ फेयर रिजल्ट। 1-1, you got lucky in the first match, if anything, in my opinion, by chasing that much of a score. क्योंकि I feel if you need a guy in what is like, he has under 10 test matches in a 6th, 7th match to be scoring 160 in the 4th innings to win you a game, तो वो आप लकी हैं। वो डिजर्व विक्ट्री तो नहीं होती, दूसरे मैच में तो आप थोड़े नंगे हुए हैं। तो आई थिंक वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप तो बहुत दूर की बात है, आपको सीरीज बाय सीरीज बेसिस पे देख के आप थोड़ा होम सीरीज तो आप जीतना शुरू हो जाए। आपकी जो हमारी पीक थी, या पीक ना भी हो, अभी दुनिया में जितनी भी टीमें होती हैं, जस्ट इवन बी अ डिसेंट टीम इन माय ओपिनियन। you need to be strong at home, which I felt we were before the Australia series, but there for a multitude of reasons you lost those. And I don't think my team utni buri hai, or that's what I thought. But then again, yahan performance dekhi to maybe it actually is that bad. But there's, to answer the question, I think there is still a possibility कि आप सिलेक्शन सही करें, आप पिचेस अपने मतलब की बनाएं, तो आप क्वालिफाई कर सकते हैं. स्पेशली इंग्लैंड के साथ आप उनको 3 ही हरा सकते हैं, वो इतना बड़ा मसला नहीं है. बट अगेन इस सिचुएशन तक आना ही नहीं चाहिए था. आपके पहला स्केड्यूल इतना कोई टफ नहीं था. यू कुड हैव बीन इन अ सिचुएशन नीडिंग 1 or 2 wins. तो पॉसिबल है, बट हार्ड.
एंड आई थिंक इट जस्ट कम्स डाउन टू द, जैसे तुमने कहा कि होम सीरीज आप नहीं जीत सक रहे, तो आप कैसे एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हो आपके पूरी चैंपियनशिप ले जाओगे. ऑस्ट्रेलिया के अगेंस्ट आपके 3 मैच थे, आप एक भी नहीं जीत सके उनमें से. चलो आप एक जीत के दूसरा एक ड्रॉ करके तीसरा हार भी जाते, जिस तरह दूसरा और तीसरा मैच निकला. आपने पिचेस ही अपने पेसर्स, आपका आपका जो स्ट्रॉन्गेस्ट सूट है टेस्ट्स में, आपका पेस अटैक है, और आपने पिचेस ही इतनी डेड बना दी जिसपे आपके पेसर्स कुछ उखाड़ नहीं पा रहे थे. एंड ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट, अगर हम पाकिस्तान के टेस्ट रिकॉर्ड को देखें 2021 में, दैट वाज अ ईयर आई थिंक जिधर हम सब सोच रहे थे कि पाकिस्तान एक टर्न अराउंड कर रहा है. पाकिस्तान 2021 में हमारे ओपनर्स ने कुछ खास नहीं किया अप अंटिल अब्दुल्ला डेब्यूड, और आबिद ने चलो न्यू जिम्बाब्वे के अगेंस्ट खेल लिया था एंड बांग्लादेश में खेल लिया था. बट अदर देन दैट आवर टॉप ऑर्डर, इवन इंक्लूडिंग बाबर हैड अ फ्यू गुड नॉक्स. वेस्ट इंडीज में उसने अच्छा नॉक खेला था, but he wasn't like, he hadn't kicked into that second gear like he has this year. Constantly centuries मार रहा है, बड़ी बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट इनिंग्स खेल रहा है. हम लोग ज्यादा रिलाई कर रहे थे नंबर 5 through 7 तक, जहाँ पे आपके पास फवाद होता था, जो उस फवाद ने लास्ट ईयर आई थिंक 4 या 5 सेंचुरीज मारी थी. एंड ऑल ऑफ दो सेंचुरीज वर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट सेंचुरीज. दे वर सिचुएशंस जहाँ पे आपका टॉप ऑर्डर बिल्कुल कोलैप्स हो चुका था. 6 पे रिजवान आता था, रिजवान ने भी 50s मारे, सेंचुरीज मारी काफी क्रूशल सिचुएशंस में. और 7 पे फहीम था. फहीम ऑलवेज यूज्ड टू चिप इन विद अ गुड 50-60 रन्स ऑन अ गुड डे फॉर हिमसेल्फ. लेकिन आपने बिल्कुल इस सीरीज में तो आपने बिल्कुल ऊपर उसको उल्टा ही कर दिया. फर्स्ट मैच में आपने फवाद को ड्रॉप कर दिया, बल्कि ये स्पिन फ्रेंडली कंडीशंस थी, इनके पास लेफ्ट आर्म स्पिनर था, आपने लेफ्ट हैंड बैट्समैन को ड्रॉप कर दिया. उल्टा आपने आगा सलमान को डेब्यू करा दिया एंड यू मूव्ड रिजवान अप टू 5. अभी आप एक कीपर जो 100 ओवर कीपिंग कर रहा है, आप उसको एक्सपेक्ट करो वो मिडिल ऑर्डर में खेले. चलो हमने सोचा कि शायद फर्स्ट मैच के बाद दे लर्न देयर लेसन, फवाद आएगा 5 पे खेलेगा, और रिजवान विल गो बैक टू 6. बट दे ब्रॉट फवाद इन फॉर अजहर अली. और once again, and instead of Rizwan moving down, he came one position up and Babar went up to 3. कोई टीम नहीं है आज जो अपने बेस्ट बैट्समैन को नंबर 3 पे खिलाती है, सब 4 पे खिलाते हैं. लेकिन हमने यहाँ पे ये वाला काम कर दिया. खैर मैं तो ऑब्वियसली ये टीम सिलेक्शन पे मैंने काफी लंबा एक टेंजेंट दे दिया, बट that brings, I mean, I've already gotten to the first point I wanted to discuss, team selection. What do you guys think the thought process was this series, और क्यों ये thought process गलत था? Parmeet, I'll go to you first.
यार मतलब आपकी बैटिंग बहुत ही कम थी, राइट? मुझे नहीं पता कि आगा सलमान, अभी तक मुझे क्लियर नहीं है आगा सलमान को इन्होंने किस वजह से खिलाया था. आगा सलमान को खिलाना मेक्स टोटल सेंस, ही हैज अ परफॉर्मेंस, बट आई एम जस्ट क्यूरियस बिहाइंड द स्ट्रेटजी, बिकॉज कहीं कहीं सुनने आया था कि बॉलिंग की वजह से खिलाया है. बट देन ही वाज योर सिक्स्थ बॉलर, एंड I don't think you need 6 bowlers in a test match, right? पाकिस्तान के एक टाइम पर स्ट्रेटजी होती थी कि बस 4 बॉलर, 5-6 के बाद भी अगर कोई लाइनअप में है, जो एक टाइम पे हफीज होता था, मिसबाह से बॉलिंग कराता ही नहीं था, सही है? तो एक तरफ से आप 4 बॉलर, फिर आपका एक, जो तुमने खुद बोला है कि आपकी एक आइडियल लाइनअप बन गई थी कि भाई 5 बॉलर, सही है? जो भी आपका नंबर 7 पे खेल रहा है वो आपका एक बॉलिंग ऑलराउंडर कहले होगा, who can average 25-30 whatever in the bat, and he can bowl a lot. या 6 बॉलर खिला के आपने बैटिंग बहुत पतली कर दी, और फवाद को आपने पहले मैच में बिठा दिया. एंड लाइक, I know he came to Sri Lanka on 13 years ago. It's a long time, but again, still he probably knew more than anyone else in this team on how this pitch might perform. I think उसने यही 100 किया था, तो वो निकालना थोड़ा गलत था. सेकंड टेस्ट मैच में मुझे लगा ओके शायद ये एक बॉलर कम कर दें, राइट, कि ये शायद एक पेसर कम कर दें. सेकंड टेस्ट मैच में यार उन्होंने 3 पेसर ही खिलाए थे. अगेन इसी तुक्की नहीं बनती. आप श्रीलंका की अप्रोच देखें, वो एक एंड से जसुरिया, एक एंड से मेंडस, और वो 20-20 ओवर की स्पेल करा रहे हैं आई थिंक. तो मतलब see, you would assume that even though you won the first game, you would learn your lesson. Okay, yeah, we picked the pacer too many. Let's drop him and let's get a batsman in. Spinners वैसे ही लंबी लंबी स्पेल करा लेते हैं, उनके फिटनेस के इतने इश्यूज नहीं होते. तो we'll just have 2 proper spinners, 2 proper pacers, and you have Aga Salman as the fifth one. But you again go in with the same thing and you drop Azhar Ali, who again, मैं कोई अजहर अली का इतना बड़ा फैन नहीं हूँ और मैं उस पर तनकीद भी रिसेंटली कर रहा था. बट देन मैंने किसी ने मुझे जरा बोला कि आप नंबर्स देख. मैं नंबर्स देखे, सो दे आर नॉट बैड. सही है. इफ एनीथिंग, चाहे वो न्यूजीलैंड हो, इंग्लैंड हो, इवन ऑस्ट्रेलिया की सीरीज हो, तो उसने इधर उधर इक्का दुक्का वो अपना 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 मार ही लेता है. सही है. तो उसको भी आपने ड्रॉप कर दिया एंड देन आपकी पूरी बैटिंग, मतलब आई गेस लाइक by bringing in Fawad, which was a good mistake, you sort of eradicated, but आपने पूरे बैटिंग ऑर्डर की ऐसी रेड मार दी कि it just doesn't make sense. Like God knows when Rizwan played that for last time in first class cricket. I don't think he's even played domestic first class season since God knows how many years. उसको बाबर ने 3 पे, he was a spectacular failure at the beginning of his career. वो खुद 3 पे आ रहा है. So I just don't know who's making this decision, if it's the coaching staff, if it's Babar himself. But यहाँ तो I mean especially श्रीलंका एक जगह है जहाँ you had success with Misbah, right? So you would assume कि especially Yusuf इतना भी वो पुराना नहीं, like he'd know these conditions. But I don't know, like आपकी जो भी strategic think tank है, whether it's Babar himself or whether it's Babar plus the team management, काफी senseless लग रहे हैं. और एक होता है कि like you can either make safe decisions or you can make sort of non-safe decisions. That still sort of the risk makes sense. Here the risk didn't make sense. Having 6 bowlers and thinning your batting line, making people bat in positions they haven't in like 5-6 years. तो overall वो होता ना कि एक net gain, net loss किसी को change करने का, या net loss ही loss था. तो जो लोग इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट खेल रहे हैं, you would assume they'd make more sensible decisions, but that's not the case unfortunately.
Yeah, I think Pramit, you made a lot of great points. I think CD, it's ironic. Man, last time आपके podcast में आया था, and we talked about one fundamental thing that I talked about one thing that putting putting your players in the best position to succeed. And I think that we did injustice to that again. We look at you guys talked about Rizwan, where we were playing bring around like musical chairs with him, right? We in the first test we sent him at he's been playing at number 6, 7, mostly number 6 his career. We sent him to number 5, and then to add the cherry on top in the second game we sent him at number 4. So that's just even though Rizwan is, I still think he's amongst our best white test overall players, test and white ball. But that's kind of unfair to him and putting him in a very tough position, in conditions that are alien to him still. He's a lot more free flowing against the pace attack than he is versus the spinners. And we put him at number 4, as you mentioned. After having to keep the whole inning. So that was just we're fighting an uphill battle. As you talked about dropping Fawad Alam, in in conditions that would have been very suitable for him. Again, fighting an uphill battle. So so just those things, right? Putting your players in best positions to succeed. Does Babar actually think Rizwan in this series, gave us the best chance of succeeding at 5 and 4? Did he think that dropping Fawad gave us the best chance of succeeding in this series? I frankly I don't think so. And you guys talk about the World Test Championship. These decisions don't look like that we want to play the World Test Championship because Fawad Alam in this same World Test Championship has won you games, has won you games with the bat, has scored 5-6 centuries like you talked about, CD. But that was just neglected, on a performance of couple Test matches where the conditions are going to be a lot more different than when they were in the last series we played. I think that was a blunder, and as you talked about. कि हमने ठीक है आगा सलमान को लाया, but I think that showed another our kind of insecurity that we had, that we probably were not confident in our spin attack that we thought that, we have Nawaz, we have Yasir Shah who's making a comeback. However, we still thought that, we want to drop Fahim and we want to play, Agha Salman. Or not, we want to, not even, they didn't even drop Fahim. They dropped Fahim and they played Nawaz. They dropped the Fawad Alam and they played Agha Salman. So I just thought that, why, and they probably, I still think, they didn't play Agha Salman that, no, because we want to drop Fawad Alam and we want to play a batsman. They probably favored Agha Salman over someone like Saad Shakil because they said, oh, Agha Salman can chip in with the ball. Especially in these conditions, he can chip in with the ball. I think that also highlighted the fact that they were actually probably not too confident in their spinners because they had to drop Fawad Alam, someone like Fawad Alam, to bring in, a spin bowling all-rounder. If they dropped Fawad Alam and brought in Saad Shakil, I would have said, okay, you know what, maybe this is progressive. Maybe they are looking towards the future, or they are giving, a like for like, change. TK, if they drop Fawad Alam, they bring in someone like Saad Shakil, Joe, who can lead us into the future. But they brought in Agha Salman that, either they're neither here, they're neither there. They want to chip in with the 5-6 bowler, like Parmeet said. You're not gonna, if 5 bowlers are not gonna do the job for you, or 4 bowlers are not gonna do the job, 6 all-rounder is probably not gonna do much of the job as well. And then so we can talk about the team selection. We can talk about, we say we want to play the World Test Championship, but these team selections and these picks are not actually showing us that we actually have the desire to play the World Test Championship. And just like the point I made at the start, that we are not putting our players in the best position to succeed. Agha Salman, probably, it would have been a lot more easier for him if you brought him in for someone like Fahim, where he was coming down at number 6 or number 7. Okay, if not number 7, for sure number 6, where, he had a little bit easier time. अगर जिस तरह पहली गेम में देखो कि हमारा collapse होता है and Agha Salman has to come in, in the 25th over, whatever, and he has to play as a batsman now, and he has to score runs, and he has to make a partnership with Babar. That's a lot more pressure for a debutant versus, coming at number 6 and playing, Fawad Alam is playing ahead of you, Azhar Ali is playing ahead of you. So I just thought, the selections did not make sense. Dropping Azhar Ali, and then dropping Fawad Alam first, and then dropping Azhar Ali, again, didn't make sense. And we set ourselves up for failure. So that's what I found in this series. And yeah, I think, like Prameet said, actually, Prameet used the correct word. We were lucky to be 1-1. This should have easily been 2-0, as I mentioned. In another series, this could have easily been 2-0. We probably played bad enough to deserve to lose both tests. But Abdullah Shafiq, dug us out of a hole, and Babar Azam played well as well, as always he does.
And I mean, to their credit, जहाँ तक आगा की बात थी, उसको 6 पे तो खिलाया था, like in both matches, even in the first game. That's the whole reason Rizwan moved up to begin with, right? But leaving that aside, I don't understand why would you bring Nouman Ali in the second match? Chalo, maybe it would have been to control one end, but then what are you going to do with two left arm spinners who kind of, like, let's look at Nawaz's performance. I know Nawaz got a good deal of wickets, लेकिन नवाज में वो कंट्रोल नहीं है जो आप एक लेफ्ट आर्म स्पिनर से एक्सपेक्ट करते हो टेस्ट क्रिकेट में. लेफ्ट आर्म स्पिनर जो हम स्पेशली जो मॉडल मिसबा के टाइम पे हम जो हमारी सक्सेसफुल टीम थी, एक एंड पे आपके अजमल या यासिर होता था, दूसरे एंड पे यू वुड हैव लाइक अब्दुल रहमान और जुल्फिकार बाबर who's like just keeping it economical at the other end. Nawaz ki economy was around 3.5ish, something around that mark, and so if you're going to already risk it with that, you're adding Nouman into the mix, who might provide control, but he's giving no wicket threat. So I feel like the whole strategy was all over the place. They were trying to, it was kind of a too many cooks in the kitchen kind of situation, where आप अलग-अलग role के लिए अलग-अलग player को इतने सारे roles आप cover करने की कोशिश कर रहे हो अपने 11 में, that you're making concessions elsewhere. I know my argument sounds a bit all over the place. I'm trying to piece it together as I go here. But Nouman never should have come into the match at the expense of an extra batter. आपको फर्स्ट मैच में पता चल गया था कि आपको एक एक्स्ट्रा बैट्समैन की जरूरत है इधर, क्योंकि आपके प्लेयर सही तरह से स्पिन नहीं हैंडल कर पा रहे हैं. बट आपने फिर से एंड यू एक्सपेक्टेड कि फिर से कोई अब्दुल्ला शफीक या बाबर आजम एस्क इनिंग्स खेल लेगा. खैर, मूविंग ऑन फ्रॉम दिस होल टीम सिलेक्शन टॉक, I mean, this is also a team selection decision kind of discussion, but हम लोग अभी फवाद के बारे में काफी बात कर रहे हैं, अजहर के बारे में काफी बात कर रहे हैं. What do you guys think is the long-term plan with these two? Because first match maybe we saw Fawad get dropped, second match we got Azhar get dropped. So in Babar's mind, and I'm going to say Babar's mind because let's be honest, control Sara Babar ke haath mein right now, team selection wise. they've made the board has made it clear, Babar has made it clear. It's सकलन मुश्ताक उधर बस अपने स्पीचेस देने के लिए बैठा हुआ है और व्हाइट बोर्ड्स बनाने के लिए, उसका और कुछ काम है नहीं इस टीम के साथ. फवाद और अजहर को मैं जब देखता हूँ, फवाद अजहर स्पेशली देखें, लाइक आई हैव a lot of respect and love in my heart for this guy, and I want him to play 100 tests. But I think going forward, आपको अजहर और फवाद में से एक से एटलीस्ट मूव ऑन करना होगा, बिकॉज आई वुडंट वांट टू ड्रॉप बोथ ऑफ देम एट द सेम टाइम, क्योंकि अगर आप दोनों को एक साथ फेज आउट करोगे, दैट लीव्स योर बैटिंग ऑर्डर रियली शॉर्ट ऑन एक्सपीरियंस. एंड आपका ऑलरेडी काफी एक यंग बैटिंग ऑर्डर माना जा सकता है बियॉन्ड द लाइक्स ऑफ बाबर एंड रिजवान. तो आई थिंक कि उनमें से एक को हमें डेफिनेटली वी शुड कंसिडर इंग्लैंड की सीरीज में इनमें से एक को मूव ऑन कराया जाए, डिपेंडिंग ऑन द नंबर. इफ इट्स अ 3, आई वुड थिंक someone like a Kamran Gulam, or if it's 5, Saud Shakil बहुत time से wait कर रहा है. I honestly feel bad for the guy. He's seen so many people make their debuts while he's been sitting on the bench. Some of them who came into the squad after him. तो I would be interested to know आप लोगों को क्या लगता है इन दोनों का future कैसा लग रहा है. Starting with Haris.
Yeah, I think CD, this is a very defining time in our cricket, just because as you said, we're going to be moving on from two very seasoned and experienced players, right? Well, it's not Fawwad's case, not seasoned. Well, Fawwad's case, he's seasoned, but not as experienced because has not even played 15 test matches or 10 test matches. But I think Azhar Ali, just like you, I absolutely love him. I think just when I started watching cricket, he was he made his debut, and he was just very assured. For a Pakistani batsman, मैंने बहुत कम batsman देखे थे जब मैं छोटा होता था, who looked assured, who had their own way, who were not the most flashy. We were playing in England when he made his debut. He was not looking to play cover drives, expensive cover drives, and then edging or getting out to slips. So but since I saw him, I thought, maybe this guy, is someone who we were looking for. And, after 94 tests later, I think, he proved most of us right, that his doubters wrong, that, he had a very successful career in the Pakistan jersey. He captained us, and, he helped us under Misbah's team when we won 2-2 in England. We went number 1 in the test ranking. However, having said that, I think most importantly, more than the player, the team is the most important. Everything has to be revolving around the team. So I think, maybe if we look towards the future, maybe this, dream of we all have of Azhar Ali playing 100 test matches has to be put in second, and the team has to be put in first place. Because I think agar hum Azhar ke 100 tests kara lein, absolutely he deserves that honor. However, you're going to make someone like Kamran Ghulam or Saud Shakil wait further, and do they deserve to wait? Because then what's going to happen is, if let's say we give Azhar Ali 5 more tests, and he goes till the end of this World Test Championship, then फिर हम Saad Shakil या Kamran Gulam को next World Test Championship के शुरू में हम debut कराएंगे, and then if we they don't perform well in the first couple of tests, we're going to be like ये World Test Championship भी चली गई. So if you look at that, I would say probably the best decision might be right now, as you said, play one of them, but absolutely we should bring in Kamran Gulam or Saad Shakil, one player in. I think right now probably it deserves to. I still think Fawad Alam is not done. His career is not done. So I think if you ask me to pick between one of those two, I would say Azhar Ali should probably be rested for the home series against England and New Zealand, and we should give a debut to Kamran Ghulam at 3. And moving on to Fawad Alam, I absolutely agree that his backup should be Saad Shakil as playing at that number 5 role. And I think, as I mentioned, Kamran Ghulam we should probably look to play him at number 3, and Saad Shakil can take over from Fawad. However, Fawad, I still think we should give him the home series. I think he's earned that much because we should not have goldfish memory. So Fawad Alam, just like you said, last year won us that, helped us win test matches, and helped us score tough runs for us, right? He scored in conditions where some of our more senior batsmen were not scoring or were not stepping up. So I think Fawad Alam has earned that. I think we should give him the series against England for sure, and New Zealand if he earns that, or which we should give him at least a couple more test matches to see if he can back up his performance which he had last year. If after a couple of test matches we see that he's not performing, or he's running into many of the similar issues he ran into earlier, like for example how we saw against Australia, he was struggling against Stark. If he's still in that rut and he can't get out, then we can look to bring in Saad Shakil. But to answer your question, I think if this is the end of Azhar and Fawad's test career, then before the start of the next World Test Championship, we should look to bring in both Kamran Ghulam and Saad Shakil into the test team. We should give them their debuts in this World Test Championship and have them play a couple test matches here. So as we get into the next cycle, they're not, well, they'll still be young, but they're not making their debuts, and they don't have that additional pressure कि यार मेरा पहला game है, मेरा दूसरा game है, that they played 2-3 test matches, and they have their spot is secured as कि हम management इनको बता दे you guys are long-term plans for someone like number 3 and number 5, and you guys are going to get this World Test Championship to show us that you're worth it. So I think we have to make tough decisions. If we can either look to say yeah, Azhar Ali, and he absolutely deserves it, he deserves 100 test matches, we can do that. But then we're probably gonna give a new batsman number 3 debut in a new World Test Championship, and that may not necessarily go as what we want. Or we can make a tough decision right now and give someone that debut right now in the next couple 3-4 games we have at home, 5 games as we talked about, and it might be easier as we go into the next World Test Championship. That's what I think.
I think it depends on your goals, right? अगर आपको अभी तक sort of hope है कि यार या उनका टारगेट है कि हमने वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप में जाना है, मैक्सिमाइज करना है चांसेस जीतने के, तो शायद दोनों को खिलाना might make sense. Fawad definitely I think needs to play, and I don't think he's done at all. उसने आपको वेस्ट इंडीज में भी सेंचुरी मार के दी है, न्यूजीलैंड में भी मार के दी है, एट होम भी उसने साउथ अफ्रीका के खिलाफ मारी है. So I think there's enough evidence that suggests that you need him. There's enough evidence and he's bailed you out in tough situations multiple times. So I don't think Fawad is going anywhere anytime soon. Stark या जो भी ऑस्ट्रेलिया में, अगेन मुझे उसके डिसमिसल्स याद नहीं है, बट इफ दे वर अगेंस्ट स्टार्क, एंड आई थिंक वो स्टार्क और कमिंस ने सेकंड या थर्ड टेस्ट में जो भी रिवर्स स्विंग करा के लटा दिया था. There is very few bowlers around the world who can reverse it at that pace. तो न्यूजीलैंड के कौन पेसर है? ट्रेंट बोल्ट होगा, साउदी होगा, तीसरा क्या वैगनर होगा, आई डोंट थिंक, या हेनरी होगा. None of them is as quick as Stark, and I don't think Lockie Ferguson plays tests. If he does, then I'm sorry, I might मुझे इतना इल्म नहीं है इस बारे में, but like none of them still, even if Lockie Ferguson was to play, I don't think he'd be as challenging as Stark. Stark has had many away tours to Asia, even in Sri Lanka in the past. उसने काफी अच्छी परफॉर्मेंस किया, तो ऐसा चैलेंज बहुत कम आता है. और जो दूसरी 130-135 स्पीड वाले पेसर हैं, अगर उन्हें न्यूजीलैंड में सेंचुरी मार सकता है, वेस्ट इंडीज में मार सकता है, तो पाकिस्तान में भी उसको मसले नहीं होंगे. और कोई इंग्लैंड या न्यूजीलैंड का स्पिन अटैक अगेन कोई इतना खास नहीं है जो फवाद को ट्रबल कर सकते. आपके दूसरे बैट्समैनों को तो ट्रबल करेगा. एजाज पटेल आपके पाकिस्तान के बैट्समैन को ट्रबल बेशक करेगा. उसने आपको यूएई में भी सीरीज हरवा दी थी, या मैच हरवा दिया था, याद नहीं है. But I don't think like England has anyone who can like trouble him that much. I think Fawad is nowhere near done, at least in my opinion. On Azhar again, like I don't see why you would drop him now. क्योंकि थोड़ी होता है ना, जो लोग थोड़े सेम विद फवाद, जो लोग बैट्समैन थोड़े स्टाइलिश कम होते हैं, जब उनसे थोड़े रन नहीं हो रहे होते, उनकी परफॉर्मेंस काफ़ी जब भी बुरी हो रही होती है वो थोड़ी एग्जैजरेट हो जाती है. I think that's the case happening with Azhar. अगर आप क्रिकेट फुटबॉल के अजहर अली की इनिंग्स बाय इनिंग्स जो भी एक लिस्ट आप देखें ना, तो he's been decently consistent. He scored a 185 in Australia. A few innings later, he scored a 78 in an innings where we didn't score too much. When he went to New Zealand, he scored a decent amount. He only really had one bad series against West Indies, जहाँ उससे कुछ नहीं हुआ. But otherwise, Azhar Ali also has been decent. I do get, दोनों मैं agree करता हूँ हमारे से कि दोनों को तो नहीं निकालना चाहिए एक टाइम पे. एक को आप निकाल सकते हैं श्योर, अगर आप you're looking to the future. Again, it's better to give, let's say if Kamran Ghulam is your number 3 option, it's better to give him a debut at home than away. Away तो नहीं देना चाहिए मेरे opinion में किसी भी बैट्समैन को डेब्यू, स्पेशली पाकिस्तान में जहाँ कुछ मैच नहीं चले, बाहर हो जाते हैं. बट again, like it might still be unfair on Azhar, and I'm not saying this in the context of 100 tests. I'm just saying it in the context of Has he performed that bad to be dropped? In my opinion, no. But at the same time, yes, if you want to make a long-term decision, it makes sense. And I feel आपके 3 पे Afwan को निकालें, Azhar को निकालें, I'd be more comfortable in dropping Azhar. I think that's a less risky move to take, at least in the short term. You have Baba, Fawad, Rizwan in your middle order. They'll go back to their normal positions 4, 5, 6, and that'll be fine even if Kamal Ghulam doesn't perform. I don't think that'll be an issue, given now you have at least one opener in Abdullah Shafiq, who you can expect to be consistent in. Even Imam, he has been he's not that bad. I don't like him. I don't think he should be opening for us, but he's not that bad. Once in 3-4 innings वो भी चल जाता है. So I think I agree. अगर आपको निकालना है तो आप एक को निकालना. But like even if you don't take either of the two out, I think that's not an issue, right? And especially if your goal is कि भाई हमने ये अगले 5 में से 4 मैच जीतना है, वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप के फाइनल में जाना है, so keep us there, right? Keep us there. You don't know what Kamran Ghulam is going to do at the international stage. You definitely have an idea of what Azhar Ali can do at the international stage in the next 5 games, and like he's a safer option. So either of the decisions, dropping Azhar or keeping Azhar, they're not they're both okay decisions. कोई उसमें ठीक गलत की बात नहीं है. आप किस नजरिए से देख रहे हैं और आप क्या गोल अकॉम्प्लिश करना चाह रहे हैं, based on that you'll take the decision. And again, both the decisions are right in different contexts and different जो results हम drive करना चाह रहे हैं. But I think ये Azhar थोड़ी ज़्यादा तनकीद हो रही है. इतना कोई उसने बुरा परफॉर्म नहीं किया. But again, like if it's the age thing or whatever, sure you can drop him, but it's not that big of a deal. I think the bigger issue with the team is not these old batsmen, but it's more so the composition of the team, the bowlers you pick, the spinners and whatnot. And if you actually trust in Imam, if you think he's the right one, I think there's bigger issues to address that can have a bigger impact on your team than Azhar and Fawad.
Yeah, Prameet, I think you made some great points. I just wanted to add one more thing to what you said. I absolutely agree. As I mentioned, the team is absolutely at the center of everything. You should every decision you should make. So and our next test game or next test series is still pretty far away. And in cricket, a lot can change. So absolutely every decision we have to make has to be with looking the best interest of the team at hand. So if we still think 4 months later when our next test series comes that we actually have a good chance, or we have a chance, we can make, if we win these games, we can make the World Test Championship final, then of course I agree with you, we should stick with Azhar and Fawad because they give us the best chance right now. But when I mentioned that we should look to move on from one of them or both of them eventually, was looking at the future. If we have come to the conclusion that okay, we have 4 test matches or 3 test matches, or we have 5 test matches and we are out of the World Test Championship, then I think regardless of how many matches a person has played, or if they're out of form and if they've not been performing, then you can look towards the future. So but having said that, if we're absolutely in this World Test Championship come January or November or December when we play England and New Zealand, and then we have to go pick our best 11, or that is going to give us the best chance to win. And I think right now Azhar and Fawad in our top 6 will give us the best chance to win. So I agree with what you said basically. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
And I mean, it comes down to, as you guys said, the championship, right? So I think उसपे तो हमें clarity मिल जाएगी. By the end of the England series, you'll know where you stand. If you win those games, you're in with the chance. If you don't, you're definitely out. So even if you don't make this decision, even if you choose to persist with both of them through the England series, if by the end of that series you're out of contention, that's when I think you can definitely start thinking about those long-term decisions. And Parmeet ने तो already list out कर दिया जो knocks थे Azhar के across the last year or year and a half or two. I'll just add Fawad's knocks in for context. Fawad he has a century in New Zealand, as already mentioned. Was the South Africa against century mari thi, which was also a very big, very good contribution. Pretty much set up the game for us in Karachi. फिर उसके बाद he had another in Rawalpindi. He had another 45 key innings against South Africa, and this is a South Africa which had Rabada and Nokia as part of its bowling attack. So that whole he can make it work against these top pace attacks. It's not like he's completely clueless. और जहाँ तक स्टार्क की बात है यार, उसने तो रिजवान को भी लिटा दिया था अपनी रिवर्स स्विंग से. दैट वाज लाइक अ फ्रीक स्पेल जिससे हमारी प्रीटी मच हमारी पूरी बैटिंग लेट गई थी सामने. Then we go all the way to West Indies जिधर उसने 124 मारा था, and I think that's when our top 3 or 4 contributed less than 20 runs in that match. बहुत ही गंदे सिचुएशन में वो आया था. Again there's another 50 in बांग्लादेश में उसने एक इनिंग्स में तो बैटिंग भी नहीं की थी. सेम विद द ऑस्ट्रेलिया सीरीज, उसने दो पहले मैच में तो बिल्कुल बैटिंग नहीं की थी, एंड ही बैटेड इन द नेक्स्ट टू. सो इट्स द सैंपल साइज लीन्स इन फवाद्स फेवर एज वेल हियर. तो आई थिंक persist with them for the England series. Try your best to set up a situation where you're still in contention for the championship. But अगर आप England series में एक भी मैच हार गए, that's like bye bye to the Test championship in my opinion. And that at that point you choose to move on. परमीत ने ये भी मेंशन किया कि हमें ये नहीं चाहिए कि हमारे जो नए बैट्समैन आ रहे हैं सऊद और कामरान ये अवे सीरीज में डेब्यू करें. एंड आई टोटली अग्री, क्योंकि हम लोग अगर वी गो एंड लुक इनटू द पास्ट, जफर गौहर जो है उसने न्यूजीलैंड में हमने उसको डेब्यू दिया जहाँ पे बिल्कुल कंडीशंस उसके लिए कंड्यूसिव नहीं थे, और उसकी बेसिस पे हमने उसको एक मैच के बाद ड्रॉप भी कर दिया, एंड आज तक उसको देखा नहीं गया है पाकिस्तान की टेस्ट टीम में. This draws me on to my next discussion, which is, I think, the most blatant problem with Pakistan, the spinners. आप स्पिनर्स की लिस्ट निकाल दें, साजिद जो है वो तो इस सीरीज में तो ड्रॉप हो गया था. Sajid has never really moved me as much. Like, I know he had that 8 for against Bangladesh, but I feel like that was more just the Bangladeshi batsman making really bad decisions than Sajid bowling exceptionally well. Noman started off really well in his test career against South Africa. He had a 5 for, and he did pretty decently well throughout that year. But something has happened across the last 6 months. Jidhar Noman looks absolutely toothless against it's not even a question of getting wickets. जो उसका काम है to blunt one end and keep the runs tight, वो भी उससे सही से नहीं हो रहा है. Nawaz, we've already been over. I don't think he provides what you need from a left-hand spinner in tests yet. He got a 5 for, credit to him. Huge Nawaz fan. I love him in white ball cricket. I think red ball might be a jump up because uska pura selling point ye hai ki he would be an all-rounder if he comes in. And I don't think he has the batting ability to cut it out in tests yet. I could be proven wrong. Obviously, it's only been 2 matches since his comeback into the test side. And then you have Yasir Shah, who had some pretty great deliveries these last 2 matches, but again, wrong side of 30. क्या solution है हमारी spinning dilemma का? Because I don't see anyone coming up. मुझे लगता है कि पाकिस्तान के लिए going into the future, at least for the next 2 years, until you're able to groom someone to take that Yasir slot, हमें 4 पेस अटैक के साथ जाना चाहिए. हम इसमें भी थोड़ी पेस अटैक में भी थोड़ी डिटेल में बात करेंगे, बट लेट्स अज्यूम आपके 2 शाहीन और नसीम हो गए. तीसरा फहीम आई थिंक इज नेसेसिटी इन मोस्ट कंडीशंस बिकॉज ही इज अ चेंज बॉलर. वो आपकी बैटिंग को भी शोर अप करता है. फिर 4th पेसर आपका जो भी हो, हसन, दहानी, etc., Rauf, जो भी आपके पास हो. And then on top of that, I think spin-wise, the only guy who's ready to come into this team right now is Zafar Gohar. उसने अभी recently 10 for भी लिया county में. He's had pretty decent stats for the most part. People do point out कि उसने last year Qaid-e-Azam Trophy में इतना कुछ नहीं किया, but last year की Qaid-e-Azam Trophy की pitches were like absolutely dead in the water. Like they did not provide anything for pacers or spinners. तो I wouldn't take that into consideration. उस बेचारे को तो midway drop भी किया गया था for Ahmed Safi Abdullah. But obviously curious to see what you guys think. क्या हमारी bowling combination के लिए क्या best strategy है going forward, Parmeet?
यार आई थिंक यान जो है ना, जो लोग इतनी टेस्ट क्रिकेट नहीं देखते उनके लिए जरा मैं क्लैरिफाई कर दूं. जैसे लिमिटेड ओवर्स में जब भी हम बात करते हैं स्पिनर्स की, हम बोलते हैं कि भाई राइटी को ऑफ स्पिनर नहीं दो और ना उसे उठा के फेंक के जो है ना छक्के मार देगा. सही है. एंड यू नेवर बोल अ लेफ्ट आर्म ऑर्थोडॉक्स टू लेफ्ट हैंडेड बैट्समैन बिकॉज यू नो मैचअप्स एंड व्हाट नॉट. जब आप एशिया में टेस्ट खेलते हैं ना, आई थिंक तो आपकी थोड़ी because of the patches and whatnot और जितनी spin हो रही होती है, you need to sort of reverse that. पहला टेस्ट मैच अगर आप देखें श्रीलंका के साथ हुआ था, you had, and I think most of Sri Lankan batsmen are righties. तो आपका Yasir Shah था turning the ball away. You had Nawaz, and then Aga was turning in, but he was a part-timer. सही है. On the other hand, if you look at Sri Lanka's attack, they had a left arm orthodox, but they also had a right arm off spinner, right? And in the first innings, इतना ये नहीं होता, लेकिन you need, I think आपको दोनों तरफ टर्न होने वाले आपको एक अटैक चाहिए. You need someone who can spin from right to left, which in your case, let's just say it's Zafar Gahar or Yasir Shah, right? They turn the ball from right to left. But you do need an off spinner, I feel. क्योंकि जब आप वो डे 4 डे 5 पे पहुंच जाते हैं ना, तो you again the more modes of dismissal you have available, the better the chance you'll get someone out, right? कितनी दफा आपने यासिर शाह को देखा है, sure he like वो एज वेज लगा के राइटियों को आउट कर देगा, और गूगली तो खैर उसकी अभी नहीं है, लेकिन आप जब याद करें, अब यासिर शाह की प्राइम थी और उसने श्रीलंका में भी बहुत अच्छी परफॉर्मेंस दी थी पहले. न्यूजीलैंड के साथ मुझे कोरी एंडरसन को उसने एक दो ऐसे बोल्ड मारे कि जब वो डे 4-5 पे लेफ्टी के बाहर पैच बन जाता है ना, तो वाइड वाइड लाइन करा के इतनी टर्न होके जो है ना वो बोल्ड करता है. उसने गैरी बैलेंस को भी याद अगर होगा आपने, जब वो 2016 की सीरीज थी वर्सेस इंग्लैंड ऐसे आउट किया था, उसने कोई शॉर्ट लेंथ बॉल ही कराई थी लाइक वे आउटसाइड, बट इट टर्न्ड इन, राइट? So like you have that sort of attack to lefties, and I'm not saying Yasir Shah it's ideal. I'm just trying to sort of convey the point. You need sort of people. You need two spinners, and one needs to turn the ball one way, the other needs to turn the other way. So सामने righty हो या lefty हो, आप दोनों exploit कर सकें. सही है. आपके पास अभी क्या है? आपके पास you have an abundance of left arm spinners, and then you have a leg spinner in the case of Yasir Shah. आप mainly इनके साथ ही जा रहे होते हैं. तो जब भी कोई righty batsman आता है, आई फील ये राइटी के बाहर, ये ऑफ स्टंप के बाहर इतने इतने बड़े पैच है, बट यू लिटरली हैव नो वन एक्सप्लॉइटिंग देम बिकॉज यू डोंट हैव एन ऑफ स्पिनर. सही है. एंड अगेन साजिद, आई डोंट लाइक साजिद. मुझे तो डर है उसको आपने बेस्टो के सामने, रूट के सामने कर दिया, वो उसे उठा के भैन जो स्टेडियम के बाहर फेंक देंगे. लेकिन लाइक यू कैन बी how you can attain, I feel, long-term success in Asia without having an off spinner, because most of the teams have right-handers, and you need someone to literally keep throwing the ball in that patch के bounce होके उसे glove पे लगे, inside edge लग के pad पे लग के out हो या bold हो जाए. तो आपको ये चाहिए. I think this is a weakness that I've been noticing in a spin attack for I don't know how many years now, right? If you look at India now, Ashwin and Jadeja, Ashwin spins the ball from left to right, Jadeja from right to left, right? सामने righty हो, lefty हो, they have so many different modes of getting them out. In the first innings, they can use their conventional ways to get them out. In the second innings, they can use those patches to their advantage. We don't have that as of now, right? तो वो आपको देखना पड़ेगा. And because of that, I also feel कि like because of your weakness in spin, जो आपके साउथ अफ्रीका के टाइम पिचेस थी, जो पेसर्स को असिस्ट कर रही थी, आपके पास you have decent pacers, you should continue with that, but like pace, we'll wait for that because I know आपने वो बाद में discuss करना है. Coming back to the spin point, yeah, if Noma, like I don't know, like Yasir Shah ko, I feel it's time to like say goodbye to him. Honestly, even in this series, I think I don't know what his average was, but I'm sure it's above 35. Right? There is no way a guy who's been to Sri Lanka before, he knows the wickets and whatnot, and like wickets were turning from day one and whatnot. You needed, you'd expect him to do better, and like he hasn't. He was dropped in the first place because he wasn't doing well. So I think it's time to move on from him now. अब जफर गौहर को ले आए, आई फील नॉट बिकॉज मुझे लगता है कि उसने कोई सेंसेशनली सक्सेसफुल होना है, बट अगर आपने ये बाकी सब ट्राई कर लिए हैं तो इसको भी आप कर ही ले, आई गेस, क्योंकि नोमान आपका डोमेस्टिक नहीं हो, ही वाज सक्सेसफुल आई थिंक 2 सीजंस अगो, तो आपने उसको ट्राई किया, ही डिड वेल एज यू सेड, against South Africa, but then he hasn't been able to replicate that, right? And even in this one, आप match देखें आज जसूरिया इतना trouble कर रहा है batsman को, no man isn't able to do anything, right? So I think वो भी I think viable option नहीं है. I don't have the answer to your question, to be honest. I think you do need to give Zafar an opportunity, and given the fact that he has played county now in away tours, maybe he can use that experience to, okay, again, not take like 5-6 wickets in an innings, but जब आप away tour पे जाएं, चाहे वो साउथ अफ्रीका हो, इंग्लैंड हो, न्यूजीलैंड हो, कि इसको थोड़ी सेंस है कि भाई यहाँ विकेट्स जो है ये मेरे फेवर में नहीं है, but like how can I make the most of it? Given he spent the season doing that and he's had modest success, I'm sure he has found ways to do that. And like I don't know who the second spinner should be, to be very honest. आप आप try कर सकते हैं. I feel maybe again wild shout, but do you want to try? Like if you do have like आप पाकिस्तान में बहुत ही turning pitches बनाते हैं, do you want to go in with Mubassir Khan as your number 7, जो ऑफ स्पिन भी कराता है, बैटिंग भी करता है? I don't know. You just need to figure something out, because जब तक आपके पास ऑफ स्पिनर एक नहीं आता, और लेफ्ट आर्म चाइनामैन तो अगेन बहुत रेयर होते हैं, I don't see how you can be successful long term. I don't know what the answer is right now, but I think you need to find an off spinner from somewhere.
Yeah, some really good points there, yaar. And this I do differ a bit in the sense that I don't believe we have the spin stocks to support a 2-spin attack at this point. क्योंकि यार अगर आप देखें तो the least you can expect from your left arm spinner or either one of your spinners is कि आप एक spinner contain तो कर देना एक end को, दूसरे एंड से फिर आपका पेसर और योर पेसर कैन बी मोर अग्रेसिव एंड ट्राई टू गेट द विकेट्स. यहाँ पे इश्यू ये है कि पेसर भी रन खा रहे हैं, स्पिनर्स भी रन खा रहे हैं, तो इट्स लाइक अलाउइंग इवन इफ यू गेट अ ब्रेक थ्रू, इट अलाउज द नेक्स्ट पेयर टू सेटल इन वेरी क्विक. तो जफर की जहाँ तक बात है, ही आई थिंक दिस इज हिज सेकंड county season, not his first. So he has a good deal of experience. He's played about, have his stats up right now. Zafar's played about 60 first-class matches in his career. He has 221 wickets at an average of 30. So he might not be like the most threatening bowler from a wicket-taking sense, but I think an average of 30 is perfectly respectable considering what we have right now. And on top of that, he's good at holding up one end. तो अगर उसको पिच अच्छी ना भी मिले तो वो अच्छी तरह से कंटेन कर सकता है दूसरे बैट्समैन को. फिर यही बात आ जाती है ना कि यू नीड टू चूज समवन फॉर द फ्यूचर. जैसे तुमने मुबस्सिर का नाम लिया, आई नो अबरार अहमद, there are some schools of thought that consider him to be someone who can who can slot into that leg spinner role. तो I think time is of the essence. आपको डिसाइड करना है अभी कि आप क्या करना चाह रहे हैं स्पिनर्स के साथ. I believe Babar said something about in his post-match presser. I didn't watch it myself. I just read this off Twitter, so I could be wrong. But Babar ने कुछ कहा था कि आप बहुत जल्द young spinners को देखेंगे पाकिस्तान के. So I don't know what he means with that. Is he going the route that we're discussing? If he does, that's great. If he doesn't, then I think we're kind of doomed. But yeah, Haris, what do you have to say about this whole spin debate?
Yeah, I think CD, you absolutely said what I was gonna say. You took the words out of my mouth. Parmeet made some great points, but I think Parmeet, you talk about two spinners would be an absolute luxury, right? Especially when we're playing in Asia. कि एक off spinner हो, एक leg spinner या left arm spinner हो, so you were getting turns both way. But unfortunately, right now, जो हमारी stock है, our resources just don't allow us to even consider that luxury. Abhi, we have we tried Sajid Khan, we tried Noman Ali, we tried Yasir Shah, and those were quote unquote the best we had, right? And they showed that they are even in favorable conditions, they were unable to be as effective as we would hope. So I think we can't just play a leg spinner and an off spinner, or a left arm spinner and an off spinner for the sake of having that. Absolutely, you're right. That would be a luxury. In an ideal world, we would absolutely love that, but unfortunately, right now we don't have the stocks. And it's great you mentioned Ashwin and Jadeja, but I think that is one of the best spin tandems in the history of world cricket, and that's why India has not lost a home series I think in a decade almost. That because those two are absolutely world class at what they do, and they make pitches that that let their bowlers beat those world class bowlers, Ashwin and Jadeja. So I think I agree with what you said, especially the Ashwin and Jadeja point, that how they give them that support with the pitches and how well they exploit it. But we unfortunately don't have those caliber players, right? Especially Ashwin is one of the best, greatest spinners in the history of world cricket. It is what it is. So I think so that is actually a luxury we can't afford right now. But as you guys mentioned, okay, what's the solution, right? I think Prameet mentioned this, and this I agree with this also. I don't think it's a lot about what Zafar has done. I think it's just a lot about what the others have done, or their inability to do anything has kind of paved the way for Zafar now, right? And we all are expecting Zafar to be thrown out there just because the lack of performances the other spinners have given us. I think Zafar Gohar has earned that spot, and I think just like everyone else was given that opportunity in the spin department, we should give Zafar that opportunity as well. And as you guys mentioned, he has a couple seasons in first class cricket, in first class cricket in England, which might help him as we go on those away tours. And he's a lot more probably experienced now. Just playing in England, playing in Pakistan, playing first class here, that he may have come across a lot more situations that some of these other spinners, our other spinners, may not have. So I think we should definitely consider him. Yeah, I agree with what you said, CD, that his numbers are not like whoa, like they jump out on us, but just because the inability of the other spinners, he's earned that spot, I think. But while we're talking about other spinners, and like you said, if Babar Azam did say you might see younger spinners, we can even consider someone like, I think, Ali Osman, jo Punjab ke liye khelta hai. He's been bowling pretty well. I was looking, he age is not on his side as well. He's getting almost 30 now, but he has been bowling pretty well. I look at his bowling in FC. He has an average of 26, 17 games and 70 wickets. So I think maybe I've heard his name. You mentioned Abrar. And I think one player that I do want to mention, I think it's just a little unfair on him because his name is Zahid Mahmood. Just because he had a great season with Sajid Khan, and Sajid Khan actually got a chance to play for Pakistan. So I think maybe Zahid would feel hard done by that. Hey, I had very equivalent as good of a season as Sajid Khan. Sajid was a little better, I think, that year, I think in 2020. But Sajid got to play for Pakistan. Why not me? I'm not saying he's the answer. I just think that, just because Sajid got a chance, and we talk about our limited resources, just like Zafar Gore deserves a chance just because the other guys have not done anything, I do believe Zahid probably deserves a chance as well just because the other guys have not done anything. I think, CD, I just want to say one last thing. You mentioned a pretty good point about Nawaz. I was actually pretty disappointed in Nawaz just because what he did, especially with the bat this series. And I think and I think people had this thought in their mind, ke wo all rounder kera, so we should not expect a lot of runs from him. I actually did expect a lot of runs from him. I'm just looking at his average right here. His first class average is 36. So that is a pretty very decent batting average. That is not something that is not a mug with the bat. So maybe I have a lot of expectations from Nawaz, especially how much he's improved in the last few years. I thought that he will actually be able to do Fahim's role pretty well, just because he was slotted in to perform Fahim's role, right? It was a like for like, all batting all a pace all rounder for a spin all rounder. But that showed, I think this series showed us the value Fahim Ashraf was giving us, right? Just like तुमने mention किया, Fahim Ashraf आके हर series में 40, 50 tail के साथ कर देता था, and that got overlooked. But this series showed us, when Nawaz was not able to do that, what we were missing out on. Just because, let's talk about the second test. In the first inning, we got bowled out for 200 odd something, and we were trailing by 150 something. But maybe if Fahim Ashraf, which he's done in the past, scored a 60, 65, 70, a rear guard action, things could have been different, right? So I think I was disappointed with Nawaz, even with the ball. Okay, yes, he got a fifer, but probably even more than the ball, I was disappointed with the bat because I don't think he's a mug with the bat. 37 first class average is a pretty good average. That shows that you have ability with the bat. Maybe it was not the conditions that were as favorable for him. Maybe spins or he was, there could be plenty of reasons, but yeah, I expected more from him. But I do still think he's not a bad option for Asian tours, but definitely Fahim, as we'll talk about later, should be are in our team for most of the countries. I just want to say one last thing, CD, because you mentioned this. Our bowl, like the outlook of the bowling. I think because of the limited resources of our spin, we should definitely in 9 countries in the world or 8 countries in the world, we should definitely, say we're gonna go with fast bowlers. 3 pacers, Fahim plus 1 spinner. We don't have the ability or the resources right now to say that yaar hum 2 spinners khila sakte hain. I think yes, in Asia, where if we're playing in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, or maybe some venues in Pakistan, like if it's a Lahore or maybe Karachi, depending on the conditions, we can go with 2 spinners. But if you're playing in Pakistan and Pindi or any other where else in the world, because we don't play in UAE now test matches, I would say that we go with 4 fast bowlers, well 3 pacers, 1 Fahim, and then the 1 spinners. That's what I would go with, just because we don't have that resources right now.
हाँ मैं क्विकली अली उस्मान का बहुत अच्छा पॉइंट नाम आपने लिया एंड आई थिंक आई कैन मे बी आई एम मिस्टेकन, लेकिन जो भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट लिस्ट आई थी, जो भी इमर्जिंग कैटेगरी या जो भी थी कुछ अलग से जो नीचे नीचे थी उस पिक्चर में, आई थिंक इसका नाम भी था. आई डोंट नो, मे बी ही इज पार्ट ऑफ देयर प्लान्स, दैट्स व्हाई दे गिव हिम a contract of some degree. And अगर आप इसकी क्रिकेट फॉर्म में जो मैचेस में आगे रीसेंट मैचेस देखें ना, तो आई थिंक इट वाज द सेकंड हाफ ऑफ द डोमेस्टिक सीजन जहाँ पिचेस थोड़ी इवन आउट हो गई थी, जहाँ बाकियों ने भी थोड़ी विकेटें ले ली थी. बट लाइक द फर्स्ट हाफ ऑफ द सीजन वाज व्हेन लाइक 5-5 6-6 हो रहा था. आई थिंक इमामुल हक ने भी बड़े वहाँ स्कोर किए थे. वहाँ भी अली उस्मान, इवन व्हेन पिचेस वर असिस्टिंग बॉलर, उसके स्टिल भी अगर आप जाके नंबर्स देख लें काफी अच्छे हैं. तो मे बी दे माइट गो फॉर हिम ओवर जफर गौहर, हू नोस.
हाँ, you're right. अली उस्मान को मैं भी मेंशन करने वाला था, उसको सेंट्रल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मिला था इमर्जिंग का. एंड जहाँ तक उसकी एज की बात है, he is like I'm on his page right now and he is 29, which is fine for a spinner, because spinners generally peak, especially हमने पाकिस्तान में देखा है कि उनकी लेट 20s या अर्ली 30s में आती है, तो he's coming in right just at the right time. जहाँ तक बात है फ़हीम अशरफ की, ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट की बात सुन के मुझे वापस थोड़ा डिप्रेशन सा हो गया कि उस बेचारे को सेंट्रल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं मिला रेड बॉल का, इवन दो होपफुली दे रियलाइज हिज वैल्यू आफ्टर दिस सीरीज. बट जस्ट ऑन अ लाइटर नोट बिफोर वी गेट टू द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक, मैं अभी राना फ़हीम के बारे में कुछ सर्च कर रहा था ट्विटर पे, एंड आई केम अक्रॉस दिस 11 दैट समवन पुट अप. बेसिकली ये हैज़ हारून का ट्वीट था ना कि name your 11s for the WTC 2025. तो माशाल्लाह से इस वाले 11 में नंबर 5 पे हारिस सोहेल है, और बॉलिंग ऑप्शंस में आपके पास जुनैद खान है इन 2022. तो यार अभी बंदा I have truly seen everything on when it comes to our test team. खैर मूविंग ऑन, दिस इज अ टॉपिक जो परमीत बहुत एंजॉय करेगा, पेसर्स के बारे में एंड स्पेशली हसन अली के बारे में. कि देखें हमारे जहाँ तक पेस अटैक है, वी नो फॉर श्योर कि जो शाहीन और नसीम है, दे शुड बी आवर प्रायोरिटी पेसर्स इन एनी कंडीशंस. उन दोनों का होना ज़रूरी है. एंड आई थिंक फाइनली आफ्टर दिस सीरीज बाबर को रियलाइजेशन आ जाएगी कि इफ हसन एंड नसीम आर प्लेइंग इन द सेम टीम, योर प्रायोरिटी विद द न्यू बॉल शुड ऑलवेज बी नसीम, क्योंकि उसने इस मैच में न्यू बॉल के साथ अच्छी बॉलिंग की नसीम ने. सेकंड मैच में, फर्स्ट मैच में ही स्टार्टेड विद शाहीन एंड हसन, व्हिच आई थॉट वाज वेरी डम, क्योंकि इवन इफ हसन इज प्लेइंग, ही शुड बॉल विद द ओल्ड बॉल बिकॉज दैट्स व्हाट ही इज बेटर एट. We were already talking about what the bowling attack should look like. Now I'm gonna give you guys a hypothetical. We are going in with 4 pacers, for example. आपका देखें शाहीन नसीम तो पक्का है, and Fahim, I think, comes in by virtue of his all-round ability. Who is the 4th specialist bowler? जो आपका your third specialist bowler. I don't know if I'm insulting Rana Fahim by not considering him one. I think he counts as well. Let's just say 4th. Who is that? Is it Hassan? Is it Rauf? Is it Dahani? What do you guys think? और हसन के फॉर्म के बारे में जनरली आप लोग क्या कहना चाहेंगे? क्योंकि देखें मैं वाइड बॉल के हद तक तो मैं समझता हूँ कि he should definitely be dropped. Red ball में my view is Hassan should stay with the squad, but he shouldn't necessarily be your first choice. He should be played depending on what the pitch is like. Parmeet, I'll let you go first since this is probably going to be the one where you have a lot of insight.
नहीं, मुझे जो है ना हसन अली से कोई मसले नहीं, अगर आप उसके नंबर्स भी देखें दे वेरी रिस्पेक्टेबल. आई थिंक दिस इज द ओनली ईयर वेयर ही इज, उसकी एवरेज थोड़ी हाई है. बाकी 2018 और 2021 उसने अच्छे खासे मैच खेले थे. दोनों मैचेस में, मतलब दोनों सालों में, सॉरी, ही हैड डिसेंट परफॉर्मेंस अगेंस्ट गुड ऑपोजिशन. मसला वो नहीं है. अगर आप हसन के कमबैक के बाद उसकी बॉलिंग देखें साउथ अफ्रीका में, एंड लुक एट हाउ ही वाज गेटिंग विकेट्स. जो 2017 में जब नहीं वो ओडीआई में अपनी पीक पे था, आप कह लें, he was getting the ball to move into the righties. He was doing the same thing in 2021 against South Africa. उसने ये वैंडर डूसन वगैरह को भी काफी जो है ना ये लेट स्विंग रिवर्स थी या कन्वेंशनल थी, मुझे इतना याद नहीं है, लेकिन उसको काफी बोल्ड मारे थे. तो but like if you look at his bowling now, he doesn't have that. My entire point is, if Hassan can bowl that way, sure, I would, maybe I'd even put him over Naseem then. So yeah, but now अभी आप अगर आप उसकी bowling देखें ना, I just don't see that. I don't know if he's injured. I don't know if it's too much workload. I don't know what the reasons are, but he's not bowling the same way. And it's not even about pace, because South Africa series में कोई तेज पेस से तो नहीं कर रहा था. वही अपनी मिड टू हाई 130s, probably touching 140 a few times if I'm not mistaken, but that's about it, right? Pace उसकी अभी कम हुई है, that's fine, but like he's not getting the ball to move back. And अभी अभी श्रीलंका के साथ इसने पहले मैच में 3 विकेटें ली, दूसरे मैच में बिल्कुल नहीं ली. पहले मैच में भी आप उसने ओके जो ओशादा को आउट किया, एक आउट स्विंगर पे किया, वो भी मतलब उसका गंदा शॉट था, चलो ठीक है, वो एक उसने ठीक विकेट ले ली. चंदीमल का तो आई थिंक बड़ी कोई ओडीआई T20 स्टाइल विकेट थी सही, और बाकी आई थिंक उसने सेकंड इनिंग्स में सिर्फ एक टेल एंडर को आउट किया. I don't, the way he has achieved success in the past, and like now I'm looking even beyond the numbers. Abhi numbers ki baat nahi kar raha. Even his numbers are very respectable overall. So like there's nothing for me to criticize, right? And I'm not gonna just look at the sample size of the Australia and Sri Lanka series and बोलो इन चारों मैचों में इसके या 3 मैचों में इसके गंदे नंबर है तो उसको टीम में नहीं हो चाहिए. वो बहुत छोटा, उससे नहीं है. मेरे बस ये है, जिस तरीके से एक बंदे को सक्सेस मिली है, he is not bowling that way. If that's because of his injury, does he need time off to focus on his action? Does he have back issues? I don't know. But if he's not bowling that way, then he shouldn't be in the team or in the squad, because right now it's very pedestrian. I don't see how he's gonna get people out. जब मैंने व्हाइट बॉल में भी जब जो है ना 2021 में जब आप हारे थे ऑस्ट्रेलिया से, मैंने तब भी इस स्पेसेस में मैं बोलता था कि he was successful in limited overs because he was getting the ball come in and was like skidding and whatnot. वो चीजें अभी नहीं हो रही है. How can a 5'6" or 5'7", 5'8" bowler who's bowling in the low 130s going to get people out, right? Because pace है नहीं, bounce है नहीं, सही है, movement थी जिसकी वजह से सक्सेस मिल रहा था, वो भी चली गई है. आप आउट कैसे करेंगे अभी से, मेरा बस ये सवाल है. अभी मुझे उसमें वो नजर नहीं आ रहा जो मैं साउथ अफ्रीका सीरीज में नजर आया था. हाँ, वो टाइम अपना ले, अभी अपकमिंग डोमेस्टिक सीजन आ रहा है. इवन इन डोमेस्टिक, राइट, if he can just literally, if I can see he can bowl the way he did back then, perfect, he should automatically come back in the team. I just don't see in him right now what made him successful in 2021 against South Africa, or even before that, right? So that's my sort of like thing with him. Overall, I don't have any issues with him, but he's not at his peak right now. And if he's not at his peak, then I think he's sort of like a liability. और बाकी जो आपने बोला कि लेट्स से चौथा पेसर, सो लेट्स से हसन अली इज आउट ऑफ फॉर्म, लेट्स जस्ट अज्यूम दैट फॉर नाउ. 3 बॉलरों के आपने नाम खुद ही ले लिए. चौथे पे फिर आपका डिपेंड करता है आपको. आई थिंक दैट्स वेरी डिपेंडेंट ऑन कंडीशंस, राइट? मुझे इरफानुल्लाह शाह बड़ा अच्छा लगता है. मुझे नहीं पता वो कितना प्लान्स में है, कितना प्लान्स में नहीं है, वो क्या मसला है. बट उसकी जितनी यूट्यूब पे मैच आ रहे होते थे डोमेस्टिक सीजन के, जितनी मैंने उसकी बॉलिंग देखी है, ही सॉर्ट ऑफ क्विकर एंड अ बिट टॉलर अब्बास. पेस अगेन कोई इतनी उसकी हाई नहीं है, लेकिन थोड़ी, क्योंकि अब्बास की अभी थोड़ी काफी कम हो गई थी, I think he's a little faster than Abbas, so I really like him. So if you were to play in a place like England, I'd probably go with him. Haris Rauf, I don't know. He hasn't played that much first class cricket, और जितनी उसने खेली भी है मैंने देखी नहीं है, वो टेलीवाइज नहीं हुआ है, तो I don't have an opinion on him. I don't know कि इतने कम एक्सपीरियंस के साथ किसी को खिला देना ठीक है, स्पेशली है बॉलर. आई थिंक बैट्समैन पे फिर भी अब्दुल्ला शफीक पे तो आपने इधर उधर घुमाया, उसने क्लब क्रिकेट इतनी खेली हुई थी एंड लाइक his basics were just outstanding, so that was an exception. But like you shouldn't be having too many exceptions in your team, right? Because exceptions rarely work out. So like Haris Rauf, because of his lack of experience and like मैंने उसे जितने मैचेस भी देखा नहीं है, so I don't go for him. But like Irfanullah Shah can, if the conditions favor him. Dhani, again, you can try him out. He's had more experience in domestic cricket and first class cricket than Haris Rauf. Mohammad Wasim, I think अगर आपने होम पे लेट से, जैसे आप पहले बात नहीं कर रहे थे कि भाई हमारा स्पिन पे रिसोर्सेज नहीं है, the team comes to the conclusion भाई स्पिन पे हमारे पास स्पिन रिसोर्सेज नहीं है, we're just gonna make pitches that assist the bowlers and we're going to bank on a bowling attack to basically outbowl the other team. Maybe you can include Mohammad Wasim, and he can be your fourth pick. He can be your third pacer. Again, wo bhi thoda young hai, raw hai, but again, he has the reverse swing, he has the pace to sort of make an impact in Asia and Pakistan at least. I wouldn't probably take a gamble on him outside of Pakistan. Dhani, Irfanullah Shah, you can try those, but in Pakistan, जहाँ रिवर्स होनी है, जहाँ आपने देखा कि हाई पेस बॉलर्स लाइक स्टार्क एंड कमिंस ने कैसे वो एक्सप्लॉइट किया और आपको अपने ही घर में हरा दिया. So you can probably even try him out. Again, he is also a bit raw, so not everywhere, but like conditions dependent. आप चौथे बॉलर के options हैं आपके पास, but like Haris Rauf and Hassan Ali, I probably wouldn't consider them. I'd lean more on Irfanullah, Dhani, and maybe Wasim Jr.
Yeah, some really good points there. And जहाँ तक हसन की criticisms जो तुमने की, I totally agree. I think he is missing that X factor that he had in 2021, जो movement थी. And if like it could be argued 2021 में जब हसन वापस आया, उससे पहले हमारा पेस अटैक एब्सोल्युटली क्लूलेस लग रहा था न्यूजीलैंड में. एंड इवन द सीरीज बिफोर दैट वी weren't doing anything great. जैक क्रॉली ने हमें जितना फेंटा लगाया था, we remember all of that. I think it's a workload thing, to be honest. What I'm saying with Hassan right now, obviously there's a massive loss of confidence since that semi-final, but on top of that, I think it's also a case of workload, क्योंकि हमने देखा था 2018-19 में भी similarly एक workload की वजह से Hassan's body eventually broke down. We did play him with injuries, so that exacerbated that, but workload का भी issue था. And when you have an injury that serious and you come back from that, because there were many people who thought Hassan couldn't come back from that, I feel like हमने उसको all formats में खिला के ना उसकी body को फिर से break down करना start कर दिया है. So I think this is another argument in favor of making Hassan a single format bowler. And in my opinion, it should be tests, because white ball में हमारे पास बहुत अभी एक bowling की एक what do you call it, assembly line एक पड़ी हुई है. Like we have so many fast bowlers coming up, young bowlers coming up. Whereas in tests, you would want someone more experienced. And Hassan has one of the best averages ever for a Pakistani pacer in tests, which goes in his credit. Now, if you manage him correctly and you let him play just test matches, you could make him a proper 200, 250 wicket bowler, 300, even if all goes well fitness wise. Pakistan hasn't had a single 200 wicket bowler since the 90s, or since Waqar Yunus, basically. So definitely some decisions to be made there. Rauf, I'm not too convinced by him either as a red ball bowler. I don't think he has the discipline in his bowling to be a red ball bowler. He's only going to get that discipline by playing first class, but he's already 28, 29, if I'm not wrong. So do you really want to make him work on his red ball bowling, or do you want him to focus on white ball, which is something he's already good at, and get the best out of him in that format? Irfanullah Shah, really good shout. He's someone who's I haven't watched a lot of, but I've heard a lot of good things about. दहानी पे मैं वसीम जूनियर पे होम कंडीशंस की हद तक तो आई कैन अग्री कि आप उसको थोड़ा बहुत try kar sakte ho, but he doesn't have too many first class matches under his belt yet. Dahani, on the other hand, has 2 seasons of first class under his belt. And one of those seasons, I think he was like one of the highest wicket taking pacers. This was the same season where Hassan made his comeback, 2020 wala. So I personally believe that Dahani bowls the hard lengths very well. He has a good pace, so he's going to be a really good asset, and he's someone who should be drafted into the side sooner rather than later. But that's all my thoughts about the bowling attack. I'll hand it over to Haris before we get to closing remarks.
Yeah, I think both of you made pretty good points about the fast bowling department. I think, yeah, I agree with what Parmeet said, that Hassan Ali was at one point doing wonders for us, right, before his injury, in 2017. And he came back in 2020, even though he had lost some of that nip or that pace. It looked like that he may be back. However, he's come off. He's towards like he's hit a cliff again. I think I said this a little while ago, CD, and now you're bringing up this point. I absolutely said this, I think 6 months ago, and I think Permeet was in one of those spaces that I said, Hassan Ali should focus on red ball cricket. He can do, he can be a 200, 300 wicket bowler for us. And at that point, it was not a popular opinion. But I think that, Babar Azam, ने उसको और the team management, चलो बाबर आजम को भी कह लो, team management कह लो, Hassan himself उसको white ball में खिला के his confidence and with his injury और नीचे गिरा दिया. Okay, especially if it's a niggling injury, he recovers, he bowls some overs, he, it comes back, it reoccurs again. And on top of that, he's not been bowling well in white ball, right, in the last couple of years. That a mental baggage starts taking over you. And as a player, a lot of your emotion and a lot of your, you're riding on that wave of emotions, whether it's good or bad. So when you're up, you're feeling great. And then when you're down, you feel really, down. And on top of that, there's scrutiny everywhere around you. And Hassan in the last 2 years has been one of the most scrutinized players in the Pakistan cricket team. So I think it's just I kind of feel bad for him, because I think when he came to us, when he came to our cricket team, he was great. His passion, his energy, his what he brought to the team was world class. And he had a world class tournament in England, and that doesn't happen from a fluke. That doesn't happen. What he achieved in that tournament was great, right? And even what he achieved in 2020 as a bowler after his comeback was not a fluke. That shows that he at his best, he is a world class bowler. However, maybe with injuries and everything else, that best has maybe gone away. But if it comes back in flashes. So that's why I agree with you, CD, that we have to preserve him, and we don't need to play him in useless white ball matches where we say we need an experienced pacer. That's fine. We need to realize that it's fine agar hum wo game useless white ball games हार जाए, but we need him in Test cricket, because in Test cricket he's actually been in 2021, when after his comeback he was a better pacer than Shaheen for us, or on par with Shaheen, right? So that's my 2 cents on Hassan. I don't think that we should get rid of him in Test. I think maybe we can give him a break and bring in someone. But in Test cricket, he should be in our fold, just because of I think he still has a lot to give in Test cricket. But I do think that he himself should be sensible enough. Babar or the management should try to say definitely from T20 eyes, you don't need to play. Play play PSL if you want. No one should stop him. ODI cricket, if we think he's the best option we have, we can play him. I don't think he's the best option we have, because I think Naseem is the best option we have. So, but if you want to talk about Test cricket, I don't think we should involve Hassan in those other 2 formats. In Test cricket, we should keep him. However, moving on to who can replace him if we do give him a rest. As I agree with you. Shaheen and Naseem are 2 bowlers. I think I agree with you about Haris Rauf. I think that especially जो Pakistani watchers and even the diehard watchers, we're not very patient, most of us. Haris Rauf is someone who played tape ball cricket most of his life, and international cricket is not about a 145 ball karoge, which on average that's what Haris Rauf balls. A 145 ball karoge, and you're gonna just blow the opposition away. He can do that in domestic cricket because the quality of batsmanship is not that high, or he can do that in club cricket, but in Test cricket, 145 is simply not going to cut it. And I just like you, I'm a Haris Rauf fan. You need to have a little more skills, right? You need to be able to set up the batsman. You need to be able to outsmart the batsman. You need to be able to swing it one way and then set up batsmen as I talk about. You need to be able to, when reverse comes in, which I think Haris Rauf can do with his action and stuff, bring in reverse later on, especially when you play in South Asian conditions. I think I don't want to count out any player. I don't think maybe necessarily Haris Rauf is the answer, just because as you said, the age is not on his side, and he's doing good in white ball cricket, so we don't really want to mix up his priorities. And it's a tough job, being a bowler and setting up batsmen and being a lead bowler, because Naseem is still pretty young. So I think moving on, I think Shahnaz Dhani is, if we give a debut to a fast bowler, it has to be Dhani in my opinion, just because he's played a couple of first class seasons. He has age on his side, and he just looks like with the pace, he may have a little more a little more skill set. And I'm not saying Haris Rauf does not have a skill set. I think he can have a good test career if they do decide to go with him. I just think that Dhani might be the more better option in terms of the long term future. I think Parmeet mentioned a really good name. Irfan Shah is a great name as well. I think even Haris Rauf is not a bad name if they do consider him. I wish him the best of luck, and I think he's good enough to figure some stuff out. I just think that us fans are very impatient, and Haris Rauf, we know what he dealt with in white ball cricket, and I think it's just he may have to deal with that same kind of emotions in Test cricket, where fans just are just so cutthroat, and they don't give a young player, because Haris Rauf will be a young player in Test cricket, the chances to develop and actually shine. So I think it's just we have to think about the future as well. Think about what, as I mentioned, I keep repeating this in everything. Put the players in the best position to succeed. Put the Hassan Ali, Babar Azam, if you really care about Hassan Ali as his friend, as his teammate, put him in the best position to succeed. Let him focus on one format or maximum two formats, and give him a rest if he actually deserves it, and bring in someone like Dani or Irfan Shah or even Wasim Jr. or Haris Rauf, and put him in positions to succeed. I just think that अभी थोड़ा सा Naseem Shah अभी थोड़ा सा और mature हो रहा है. If we bring in a young pacer right now, my concern is that may put too much pressure on Shaheen, which Shaheen can take all the pressure he wants because he's world class. But Abhi Naseem is not really flourished completely. He is flourishing right now. He's learning to fly, and he's gonna keep doing that because we all believe in him. But putting one more young pacer into the fold, that may be asking too much of Shaheen. And we may go back to where we were 2 years ago, where we used to say our bowling is inexperienced or fast bowling nahi out kari, because I will end off by saying this, which I said about Haris Rauf. International cricket, Test cricket, हमें आप 140 करके out नहीं कर सकते. You need to be able to set up batsmen, and you need to have other skills which will trap the batsman. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, some really great points there, Haris. I think we're all in agreement के pace attack के साथ आगे क्या होना चाहिए. We might have a few other opinions as to the replacements, but the core issue, I think, I think we're all in agreement, and I think it's there to see for everyone के issues क्या हैं. It's more so कि आपकी team management or think tank क्या करेगी इन चीजों को rectify करने के लिए. We are heading up to the 1 hour and 20-minute mark now, so for those of you who are still listening, thank you for sticking around with us this long, and I hope everyone really enjoyed this episode. Haris, Parmeet, was a pleasure to talk to both of you, and let's hope Pakistan's team, a test team, makes some changes, some much needed changes going forward, and we see some positive results against England. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Do subscribe to the channel. Please follow Parmeet, Haris, and myself on Twitter. I'm going to be linking all of our accounts down in the description, and I will see you again in the next episode. Take care, and Allah Hafiz.